There is a long history of R-rated properties being adapted into children's entertainment brands. Rambo, Chuck Norris, RoboCop, Police Academy, Commando, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes, Toxic Avenger, rated R for their content up to and including intense graphic violence, each possessing a corresponding animated series and toy line for kids. But where do you draw the line? What could possibly be so intense, so frightening that any attempt to translate the property would cause the parties involved to disavow any knowledge of its production, to bury it for decades? Legend has it that a single tape may exist with a single episode of this cartoon on it, but this is where the line had to be drawn. This is the thing that could not, that must not be adapted. This is the thing that is not for kids. This is Operation Aliens. Operation Aliens was intended to be a 1992 animated series adapted from the successful Alien movie franchise, which at the time was made up of 2 feature films. 1979's Alien introduced the world to the concept of the xenomorph, an insect-like humanoid creature with biomechanical design that reproduces opportunistically by implanting eggs in a generally non-consensual host. In 1986, Aliens expanded the mythology to include a team of space marines tasked with destroying a xenomorph-infested colony and possibly returning to Earth with some samples to be used as biological weapons. That is where Operation Aliens intended to take its narrative cues: space marines versus space monsters. In and of itself, that concept is neither new nor inherently graphically violent, and it could have easily been the pitch for any number of other properties aimed at teens and younger. But the Alien franchise was a very R-rated series of films with 18 to 24-year-olds as the primary target audience, mostly for the graphic violence, but also for the intense psychological horror approach to storytelling assisted by the graphic violence. Kenner Toys knew a winner when they saw it. In 1977, they exploded onto the scene with Star Wars action figures. Star Wars drove a renewed interest in space and science fiction toy lines. As a follow-up, in 1979, Kenner acquired the license for the film Alien and attempted to release action figures despite the differences between the R-rated action of Alien and the PG action of Star Wars. They would only get as far as a single 18-inch figure and a series of unreleased 4-inch prototypes. The 1986 sequel Aliens proved to Kenner that there was plenty of life and value in the Aliens license, and the toyetic value had gone through the roof with the introduction of Space Marines. But they wouldn't move on the idea until a few years later in advance of the release of Alien 3. Kenner was already host to a thriving line of action figures based on an animated series adapted from a movie featuring scenes of intense supernatural creatures, ghosts, monsters, and also Sigourney Weaver with the real Ghostbusters. Was Aliens really any different from anything else that was already out there being sold to kids by Kenner? Fresh off their adaptations of R-rated franchises RoboCop and Police Academy, as well as the conversion of traditionally R-rated movie star Chuck Norris into a cartoon superhero, Kenner implemented the same strategy for Aliens. A toy line called Operation Aliens was designed and put into production, and Kenner approached Fox Studios about the potential for them to develop an animated series coinciding with the launch of Alien 3 in 1992. Fox Studios head Margaret Loesch was the animated series success maker through the 80s and into the 90s. From G.I. Joe and Transformers to Dino Riders, Gem and Humanoids and Muppet Babies, Margaret Loesch knew how to make a hit. She knew what would work and she knew what wouldn't. And not for nothing, but she had already worked on the previously mentioned adaptation of RoboCop, so there was a clear path to victory for Kenner with Aliens. Animation would be handled by Animation Korea Movie, or AKOM for short. AKOM had worked on stuff that kids and adults love: RoboCop, X-Men, Tiny Toon Adventures, Batman the Animated Series, Gem, The Tick, Exo Squad, Transformers, The Simpsons Movie, Rude Dog and the Dweebs, and lots of others. In fact, nearly everything we've covered here in the Toy Galaxy library. Do we owe them money? Do they owe us money? Operation Aliens was about a ragtag team of space marines, each with their own primary function, their own specialty within the group, like G.I. Joe or Mask or even Ghostbusters, each character bringing their unique skill set and personality to the team. The Space Marines would be deployed around the galaxy to fight off the space bugs and their strange hybrids: Rhino Alien, Scorpion Alien, Bull Alien, Snake Alien. Your finger was covering up the word. Each of the Space Marines were based on their 1986 Aliens film counterparts prior to their deaths at the hands of the Xenomorphs. Sorry to spoil that for you, but you've had time. Everything was in place for the launch, but once animation for the toy line tie-in was in development, something changed. Fox Studios decided they didn't want to be involved. 20th Century Fox, the production studio for the films, declined to support the series. Operation Aliens would not be produced out of fear of network censorship and backlash from parents groups. There was no way this animated series could make it to the airwaves. Kenner's toy line would have to stand or fall on its own. But there was proof that Operation Aliens, the animated series, was in some stage of production. Screenshots of an animated sequence are easily found. The branding can be found on a variety of products that were officially released to stores. From board games to handheld electronics to school supplies, there's a wide variety of merchandise that was prepared with the expectation that this brand was going to be mainstream. So where is it? Where's the pilot? And how, if it was produced, has no one ever seen it? What is it that is preventing this tape from being discovered and shown to the rest of the world like all the other obscure stuff on the internet? Does it actually exist? In 1990, the US federal government passed a new series of regulations aimed at children's television broadcasting. It was called, appropriately, the Children's Television Act. It changed the way that toys could be promoted to kids on television, as well as the content of the kinds of shows that could be shown on TV. Margaret Loesch had worked on RoboCop in 1988. The Children's Television Act changed the rules in 1990. A RoboCop animated series doesn't happen just a few years later. They got that one in just in time. When Kenner approached Margaret and Fox Studios about Operation Aliens, she knew that the odds of getting that past the new regulations were slim and that it probably wasn't even worth attempting. She declined it from the beginning despite her actual interest in the franchise and wanting to take a shot at it. 20th Century Fox was looking at the bigger picture. Alien 3 underperformed compared to its predecessor Aliens, but they still had plans for the future. An animated series would likely dilute the potency of the franchise in the eyes of their 18 to 24-year-old target audience. The last thing they wanted was to take the edge away from something that might not have much edge left. Despite the fractured plan, the disinterest of the studio, and the newly implemented Children's Television Act, Kenner pushed forward. Operation Aliens, the action figure line, the cross-promotional brand, would carry on. Rebranded Aliens, the line would last for 6 years and dozens of their own characters and creations supported informally by other related media items like video games and comic books, a toy lifespan that Kenner could not have dreamed of when they originally attempted to get a cartoon made at Fox. But what about that proof? The animated sequence images. They are production images of an animated sequence that would have been a tie-in for the toy line and animated series if it had been produced. Will Mineo was an animation veteran who had worked on a variety of series over the years, producer, character designer, storyboard artist. He did it all. In fact, he did those animation storyboards, but not as part of the Operation Aliens pilot episode. They were for the toy commercial that Kenner originally intended to produce to promote the Operation Aliens line of toys, before opting for actors in live-action sequences once the animated series was already dead. Aliens was a very successful toy line and has a legacy that continues for Aliens, if not for Kenner, today, thanks in no small part to the emergence of the adult collector market who grew up with these as some of their first action figures, and also Star Wars for kicking the whole thing off in the first place. Operation Aliens didn't go exactly according to Kenner's original plan. There was no animated series, not even a pilot episode, but every other facet of the promotional campaign was executed and was successful. The legend of the pilot episode for Operation Aliens is dead, because Operation Aliens, the show, was never produced. But Operation Aliens, the brand, was, and it was a success, and that is what makes it odd. Thank you very much for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those of you who already are. If you're in the position to help the channel grow, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy. Thank you very much to the investigative work and articles over at avpgalaxy.net and internetisinamerika.blogspot.com, who did all the legwork to get the facts about this urban legend out into the public domain. Links in the video description down below. And let us know in the comments down below that if you've ever heard of Operation Aliens, and if that's something you would have watched. I don't even know why I'm asking. Of course they would have watched. That's like asking a xenomorph if they would like to give my face a hug and utilize me as a host for their offspring, ultimately resulting in my death. What's the saying for that kind of question? A duh? A duh? God.